Hello and welcome back to Tima podcast. Now, this is the second part of the video I promised. I did this Premier League Champions League review of Liverpool, and now let's move on to the second part, focusing on Man City and Arsenal, which I think are the talking points of both the Premier League and the Champions League. Because as you might remember, we all talked about a three-horse race. Now, this was something quite generally accepted in the media and in other fan bases. Three-horse race between City, Arsenal and Liverpool. There have been some major developments. We talked about Liverpool. Let's now move on to Manchester City. 6 and 7, 4 times in a row champions, treble winners. But Man City have lost 3 games in a row for the first time since 2018 when they got humbled 4-1 by Sporting on Tuesday. It is a historic defeat in the sense, come on, since 2018 they've not been humbled like this, and it is quite humbling, by the way. 4-1 by Sporting in Ruben Amorim's last home game. It's actually quite ironic how Ruben Amorim is going to Man United, and it's almost like as a parting gift to Sporting, he smashed Man City. So quite an interesting story. Let's see if Ruben Amorim will be able to repeat this in the league with Manchester United. It would be quite cool if Man United took points of City. Of course, that would help us in the title race. But let's analyze City. And before I kind of proceed with this, do not please get offended at any sort of bantering on this channel. Football fans love to make fun of each other and make fun of other clubs. I will do my best to be as civilized as I can. I do like to joke about things because otherwise this podcast will not be very interesting. I have to bring in jokes to make this fun, but don't get insulted if I am joking about your team, because in the end, we all banter each other, right? We bottled it last season. We absolutely bottled it. Klopp's farewell tour was just one Mickey Mouse trophy. Sure, make jokes like that. I can equally make fun of City and say 115. You can call Arsenal fans bottlers and their sponsors Volvic. Volvic, come on, it's just bantering, right? So with Manchester City, yeah, I mean, Mark Goldbridge made a video called Manchester City in Crisis, and I obviously am not going to steal that title, but it is a crisis, isn't it? Because for Man City, losing 3 games in a row is bad. Being knocked out the League Cup, losing ground in the Champions League. They're now in 10th place in the Champions League table. So they are, 2 points off 8th, which are Aston Villa with 9 points. Man City have got 7. So yeah, it's quite disappointing for Man City. And even more kind of concerningly, they've got Brighton away, then Spurs at home, then Feyenoord at home, which is quite easy, but then they've got us at Anfield. So Man City really do have quite a difficult run of fixtures now, which might define their season. We all know how Man City can start a bit slow, and last season there was a point where you thought Man City were in crisis. They had this run of draws where they kept on drawing, and they had some rather uninspiring draws like Crystal Palace, where they were up 2-0 at home, and then they surrendered a 2-0 lead, and the game ended 2-2. So Man City did make these mistakes last season and still won the league. This has happened in the past, even in their treble-winning season. They had a rocky start. We beat them at Anfield. They had some poor results, but ultimately they won the treble in the most convincing fashion possible, and they were simply unstoppable. They were a bulldozer, an excavator, you name it, and they beat every single side. They beat Real Madrid 4-0, Bayern 3-0. They won the Champions League final, beat Man United, smashed us 4-1. They beat everybody. So let's not forget what Man City are capable of. But there is one caveat, and that caveat is Rodri, the most important player, that piece in the machine. I've talked about it in my first part of this kind of review, is that Rodri is a part of this machine. He is a crucial component of this machine. And with Rodri, there is not just a quantitative difference, as in you're down a midfielder. There is a qualitative difference, because Rodri makes a qualitative difference to Man City's side. He transforms them into a more possession-based football style where they can do all the things they do. Rodri is at the heart of this in terms of his passing, defense, helping the back line, helping with goals, assists. He conducts the whole midfield. He's a conductor in the midfield. And not having him is a major, major blow, which ultimately maybe might undermine City's strength towards the end of the season. Can they replicate the same things with Kovacic, who is nowhere near Rodri, and he's a completely different kind of player? Is Gundogan really who he was 2 years ago? Not really. His form has dropped off. He's come back to City and not really set the stage alight. There was a lot of talk about how genius it was to bring back Gundogan on a free. But ultimately, he's not been world class, and I know he probably needs time to readjust back to the Premier League. But come on, he's like 33, 34, so you shouldn't be relying on Gundogan as this, genius to win you the league. And otherwise, Mateus Nunes, again, CM, not Rodri. So fundamentally, they haven't got Rodri replacements. So I'm wondering how inhibiting will that be? And if it is a matter of they drop a few more points than usual, well, what if Liverpool score like 87? That might be enough to beat City. City's standard, which is usually 89, 90 plus, might now drop down to 85, which opens the door for Liverpool and Arsenal. Arsenal probably have closed this door themselves, arguably through partly through refereeing errors, partly through injury crisis, but also partly due to indiscipline, not scoring crucial goals, not defending at the right time, and that has costed them a lot of points. So Arsenal most likely out of the title race. So Liverpool really, the door is open for them, 2 points clear. City can of course catch up. And another interesting dynamic was City's arrogance in the League Cup. Pep choosing to start a lot of youngsters, and then Haaland was an unused substitute on the bench. Pep was smiling at it, Haaland was laughing. It's almost like they were kind of happy to give up this competition. There is sense in that, right? Because obviously trying to focus on too many competitions is a way to doom yourself, and arguably that's what happened to us last season. When you've got too many competitions, too many games, you get tired. And Man City's priority is probably a Champions League and a Premier League. They'll be eyeing those trophies a lot more than a League Cup. And now in the time of when they do have an injury, I wouldn't call it an injury crisis as such, but when they have these injury issues, they are probably better off without this League Cup. And in terms of this whole thing of Man City injury crisis, Pep Guardiola complaining, I'm looking at the lineup City had against Sporting. I don't see anything that terribly wrong. They were missing a lot of defenders, so John Stones, Ruben Diaz are missing. Kyle Walker was on the bench. So they are a bit slimmed down. I get Kevin De Bruyne is not properly fit, but nonetheless, they've still got Erling Haaland, Phil Foden, Savinho, Bernardo Silva, Mateus Nunes, Mateo Kovacic, Gvardiol, Akanji, and Edison starting that game. So I'm not gonna be like, yeah, Man City, I feel so sorry for you. You've got a massive injury crisis. Oh no, what will you do? Man City have got the best squad in the world in terms of depth, I think. Seriously, the abundance of talent, probably Real Madrid are just above them, but Man City are incredible. So just because they're missing Diaz, Stones, and Rodri, I'm not going to now turn this into a whole massive thing about City. But ultimately, it's not a case of, it's not that bad for City. They've still got most of their players available. They have had some injuries, some players not fully fit. So I think City will still click. I still think they'll have a good season, score more than 80 points. But without Rodri, they aren't just the same machine. So it's more of a question of, can Liverpool be outstanding and take 87, 88, 89 points? In that case, I think Liverpool will take it. If Liverpool can't take it and they stumble, then I'd say Man City will still take it, even without Rodri. So therefore, Man City, I wouldn't call it a proper crisis yet. A crisis is when you are dropping down more and more. There was a point last season where Man City were 4th in the league table. They are still second. First. Luckily, they're not first. I'm so used to saying Man City and first. It's kind of like, hard to get rid of this stupid habit. But yeah, luckily they're not first in the Premier League. They're second. Only 2 points off though. But hopefully if we beat them at Anfield, that'll be 5 points. And then it's a matter of keeping that lead for Liverpool, not wasting stupid chances like against Nottingham Forest. You want to be winning all those games to not give Man City any chances. Then in terms of Arsenal and Liverpool, there's literally a forest in between them. And speaking of Forest, respect to Nuno Espirito Santo, the manager of Nottingham Forest, who are in 3rd place. Yes, you heard that right. Forest are in 3rd above Chelsea, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur, Brighton, Newcastle and Manchester United. Yes, you heard that right. Nottingham Forest, the team who I predicted in 19th place. Yeah, I predicted them in 19th place. I said they aren't going to work out. I thought Nuno was mediocre. Well, I could not be any more wrong. He's done a fantastic job. The defensive record is incredible. Only 7 goals conceded in the league. Chris Wood scoring goals. Elliot Anderson has been a great signing. Callum Hudson-Odoi is doing brilliantly. So yeah, I'm completely wrong. Murillo is a great centre-back. Matt Sells is a decent keeper. All these players who we thought were mediocre and average have become actually quite decent. And the whole team is just so well built. Of course, I don't think they'll finish third. I don't even think they'll finish in Europe. Not at all. I'd say probably 8th is best case, and that would be a fantastic season for Nottingham Forest, a team who came from the Championship, a team who was in a relegation fight last season. To finish 8th would be sensational. So respect to Nottingham Forest. And in terms of Arsenal, they are now 5th place. They've dropped down quite a lot. 7 points off Liverpool, 5 points off City, a point off Nottingham Forest, a goal difference of only +6. They have struggled, defeat to Bournemouth, a few draws. That has really dented, unfortunately, Arsenal. If you were to really just analyze this form for 1 second of what have Arsenal done. So they've had 4 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses. That is not title winning form at all. That is very much nowhere near it. They've been dropping silly points to Brighton, where it was a case of, okay, Declan Rice, fair enough, rather unfair, but these disciplinary issues are a question mark. Saliba's record is a question mark. The Bournemouth game was pretty bad. And as of time recording, Inter Milan beating Arsenal as well. So Arsenal are in a bit of a crisis. They are. I think now it's a case of it's Arteta's 5th full year. 0 trophies since the FA Cup win in 2020. So they've gone 4 years, no trophies. The Champions League is also not going brilliantly. Arsenal are in 12th place, level on points with City. So again, 2 points off the top 8. They could still make it. I doubt they will. Arsenal have never been a proper European side. So it's going back to my predictions really, right? I said they'll finish 3rd. I still stand by that opinion. I think they will make a comeback once the players are back. Once Odegaard is back. Once they utilize these players in the best possible way, they will get good performances. I just don't think they've got that winning mentality to win the Premier League. There's a lack of experience. I think you should have... It's just that you're competing against Man City, who won 6 and 7 with the most successful manager, arguably one of the most successful managers in history in Pep Guardiola. Liverpool have got Champions League, Premier League winners in their team, World Cup winner Alex McAllister. You've got so much experience in both City and Liverpool. Whereas with Arsenal, nobody in that team has won a trophy with Arsenal, apart from Saka technically, who was on the bench, I believe, in that FA Cup final win. But nonetheless, he didn't play there even, so nobody in Arsenal's team has been a winner with Arsenal. There are players like Havertz and Jorginho who won trophies with other teams, but that's very different, right? When you've got a team who wins stuff, they know how to win. The manager knows how to win. And with Arsenal, they don't really know how to win. And in those big moments, in those decisive moments when you need to hold through, when you need to pull it off, Bournemouth, Brighton, Man City, those are the defining moments where Arsenal have fallen short. Even that Liverpool game, you're going in the second half, 2-1 up, you start time wasting, David Raya getting a yellow card. It's just silly, really. Time wasting at home against your rivals who you should try to beat, and then you make it 2-2, and that's 2 very valuable points dropped. Now Liverpool have scampered ahead because you lost to Bournemouth. So I always thought with Arsenal, they did not have enough top-class and world-class players to get over the line. I think their squad is close to Liverpool's, but Liverpool have got more squad depth, more depth in attack, more depth in defence and midfield. Arsenal seem to be a bit too heavily reliant on Saka and on Saliba. Haven't really got a replacement for Odegaard or for Declan Rice. They've simply not been the same team without their captain, and they lack leadership ability on the pitch. The fact that Jorginho ends up being captain, vice-captain is pretty ridiculous. Whereas with Liverpool, you've got an abundance of players who are actually captains for the national teams. Andrew Robertson, Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk, even Dominic Szoboszlai. That just shows you the difference in the leadership talents. And those leadership moments define the whole season. Virgil van Dijk stepping up with a header in the League Cup final and winning it for us. Then this season, the admirable performance against Leverkusen, those experience moments, those leadership moments come in handy in the biggest of times. Virgil van Dijk scoring an equalizer against Arsenal to keep us in the game so we don't drop valuable points to Arsenal. In the end, we dropped only 2 points, so we salvaged the points, prevented Arsenal from going forward. And you look at those leaders like Van Dijk, like Salah, like McAllister. I just don't think Arsenal have got those caliber of players. And it's not really their fault. They are bounded by FFP. They can't spend like City and get 2 billion worth of players. Equally, they haven't had the best recruitment strategy like Liverpool. Haven't been able to get that level of... But I can't blame them. What Liverpool did in that 2015-2019 period in terms of building that squad is sensational, phenomenal, remarkable, and I don't think it can be repeated by Arsenal because our structure of recruitment was just too phenomenal. Like what we did with transfers with like Salah, Firmino, Mane, Fabinho is just crazy. Signing players for 30 million and then they're worth 5 times that in a matter of a year or 2 or 3 is crazy. So I think Arsenal are, they're not even in an injury crisis, so you can't use that excuse. They've got few players out like Odegaard, Tomiyasu, Calafiori, technically also Kieran Tierney. Gabriel was out very briefly. Saka was out briefly. This isn't an injury crisis. Injury crisis is last season Man United when they had 5 centre-backs injured, when they had most of the defence not there, when they had, 65 injuries in the whole season. Injury crisis is when we were going in that League Cup final with the vast majority of the senior team not there. Literally, the vast majority of the senior team did not play in that final. That is an injury crisis. What Newcastle had is an injury crisis. Having 3 or 4 injuries like Arsenal is not an injury crisis. So you can't then go into the game, right? Go into Liverpool-Arsenal game. All their fans then after the game start talking about injuries and referee. You can't find excuses. Look at yourself. Look at your team. I'm not saying Arteta out. That's something for Arsenal fans to decide. Certainly question marks are appearing over Arteta because a 5th full season, 5 seasons in a row with no trophies is rather concerning. Because for the money you've spent, for the squad you have, you should be getting something. Arsenal's cup form has been one of the worst ever. Like literally, they've been knocked out in the first or second rounds of the competitions. Even Middlesbrough have done better than Arsenal. They got to at least a semi-final. Arsenal can't even get to a quarter-final, let alone a final. It's pretty embarrassing. So I think Arsenal are in quite some trouble, but they could obviously make up for it. Winning the League Cup is a pivotal moment. They're still technically in a title race. They still could make a comeback, finish 3rd or finish 2nd strong. I doubt they'll finish 1st. They have dropped too many points. It's far harder to catch 2 teams ahead of you than 1, because you have to assume that both City and Liverpool stumble, and and Arsenal outperform them. So I don't think that's going to happen. Arsenal can still salvage the season with a cup, maybe a good Champions League run, and then Arteta can build towards an even better title challenge with Pep Guardiola out the window, presumably in the summer, for instance. Man City crumbling 1-1-5. Then you take on Liverpool, you beat off Liverpool, and Arsenal become champions. It's possible. It's not all like, Arteta out, it's a disaster, it's a disgrace. That's just overreaction. Typical overreaction. But yeah, I think that's how I would analyze the situation. Liverpool clearly having the upper hand in this title race. Liverpool clearly being the team in form and the team to beat. We shall see what happens next. Lots of stuff to get into later on. Massive games ahead for all these 3 teams. I do wish you all the best and I hope to see you soon. Thanks so much and goodbye.